The time I swapped my sister's fate with a turtle's. In my last life, my sister plotted to swap our fates. She stole the healthy, wealthy, and fortunate life that was meant for me, and gave me her sickly, unlucky, poverty-stricken one. Reborn, I decided to tie the fate-swapping charm to a turtle instead. Live long and prosper, you old bastard. Who could possibly outlive you? I was reborn. I came back to the exact moment Leo hung the fate-swapping charm around my neck. I stared at him. A flicker of guilt crossed his face for just a second. Then, with resolve, he fastened the pendant around my neck. How could this man be so heartless? We were childhood sweethearts. I was born a rich girl, but I spent nearly a decade humbling myself, acting like his mother, chasing after him and taking care of him. And it still wasn't enough to compete with Mia, his childhood neighbor whom he'd only known for a few months. When he found out Mia's health was terrible and her fate was cursed, but that she could swap it with someone else, he didn't hesitate. He took the fate-swapping charm and put it on me. Claire, Leo whispered, hugging me tightly. I will marry you. I will love you forever. Bullshit. In my last life, on our wedding day, he got a call from a drunk Mia and left me at the altar. He abandoned me to face a room full of guests, humiliated and unable to explain. When I went to his place later to demand an explanation, he had just put Mia to bed. He shot me a look of disgust and told me to be quiet and not wake her. He pulled me outside, frowning at my gaunt, sallow face. He sighed. Claire, look at you now. Do you even think you're worthy of me? Shortly after, he broke off our engagement and married Mia. Just looking at him now makes me sick. I pushed him away, clutching the pendant, and put on a troubled expression. But your mom is the other woman, and you're an illegitimate son. I'm worried my mom will think you're not good enough to marry me. Leo's face twisted for a second. Of course it did. To protect his fragile ego, I'd never been so blunt before. Did I say something wrong? I asked, pretending to be anxious. Maybe you should take the pendant back. No, Leo said, gritting his teeth and forcing a smile. It doesn't matter what your mother thinks, Claire. You're the only one for me. I rolled my eyes internally. You're the one who insisted on giving me this thing. After leaving Leo, I rushed straight to the Bright Moon Temple. First, I found the abbot, who was an old friend of my grandfather's. I donated $100,000 and asked him to help me break the fate-swapping curse. I also asked for 2 protective talismans. The truth was, Mia had already used a strand of my hair to perform the main ritual. The pendant was just a secondary layer of insurance. If I hadn't taken the pendant, I wouldn't have known what they were up to, and it would have been much harder to undo their ritual. Thankfully, Mia was so sure I was blindly in love with Leo that she never suspected I'd uncover her little scheme. After breaking the curse, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I sat on the edge of the temple's turtle pond, feeling a small problem had been solved. I pointed a finger at the turtles crawling out of the water. Let us see, which one of you should I pick? Uft. I turned to see a young man with dark hair, dressed in a traditional robe, smiling gently. He was strikingly handsome, easily rivaling any celebrity. I was stunned for a moment, then turned back to the turtles without another thought. But he walked over and stood beside me, just tying it on one swap the fates. Let me help you. Even the abbot couldn't do it. What makes you think you can? The young man raised an eyebrow. What's the harm in trying? Follow me. I remembered the abbot's advice earlier. Be merciful where you can. Fine. I didn't hesitate. After all, no one had shown me any mercy in my past life. Besides, this was the Bright Moon Temple. I wasn't afraid he'd try anything. I followed him to a small, quiet courtyard behind the temple. It was bright and open, peaceful and serene. There were vegetables and flowers growing in the yard, and inside the house, there were cats, dogs, and even toads. Go ahead and pick a toad. I'll go get a few things. I stared at the colorful toads in the glass tank and chose the ugliest, biggest one. This one. Good and ugly, he said, emerging from a storage room with a candle and a yellow paper talisman. He smiled. Same one I would have picked. A turtle's life is too long that's letting her off too easy. A toad is perfect. Ugly and short-lived. I looked him up and down. Was this guy a lay disciple or the Grim Reaper? I watched as he lit the candle, wrote a spell on the yellow paper, and stuffed it inside the pendant. He chanted something under his breath. Then he performed a small surgery on the toad, embedding the pendant under its skin. That's it. It was that simple? I slid a debit card into his hand. 500. For your trouble. I'd just donated all my allowance money, so 500 was all I had left. Whether his ritual worked or not, I was happy. But I didn't expect the results to be so immediate. 3 days later, a massive boil erupted on Mia's face. Mia was adopted. 10 years ago, my mother had a miscarriage and fell into a deep depression. My father took her to an orphanage, where they adopted Mia to help ease her grief. Mia was a year younger than me, but so thin and small she looked 2 or 3 years younger. Claire, you're a big sister now. You have to take good care of her, Mom said, smiling as she stroked my head. My mother hadn't smiled in a long time. Our house had been shrouded in a heavy silence. But Mia's arrival brought the light back into my mother's eyes. I couldn't help but like her. She would hide timidly behind my mother, clutching her dress, looking so dark, thin, and pitiful. Her fragility instantly awakened my protective instincts. I will. I promise I'll take good care of her. Claire, Mia said, a huge red pimple sitting on her right cheek. She looked at me pitifully. I've been so careful with my diet. Why am I still breaking out? The red lump was crowned with a yellow pustule. I immediately thought of the bumpy skin of the toad. That guy, wasn't he lying? Did he really swap Mia's fate with a toad's? Your skin is so perfect, Claire. Are you using some amazing skincare product you haven't told me about? I caught the flash of jealousy in her eyes. Even after being spoiled for 5 years, she still looked like a wilted weed, sallow, skinny, and short. Meanwhile, my skin was practically glowing. I was all rosy lips and porcelain skin, with curves in all the right places. Ever since middle school, I'd been scouted by talent agents, but I had no interest in showbiz. She, on the other hand, was constantly auditioning for reality shows and talent competitions, all without making a single ripple. Here I said. I'd anticipated this and had already mixed some foot fungus cream into an empty La Mer jar. It's for repairing the skin barrier. Works wonders. She took it, grabbing my hand and thanking me profusely, pretending to jump for joy. Ah! With a cry, she tumbled down the stairs. She clutched her leg, her eyes welling with tears as she looked up at me. The staging, combined with her positioning, would make any uninformed observer think I'd pushed her. Mia. And just like that, an uninformed observer appeared. Or rather, Mia had waited until she saw Leo coming to pull this little stunt. What are you doing? Why did you push Mia? Leo's eyes were blazing. He looked like he wanted to eat me alive. Mia let out a soft hiss of pain and tugged on Leo's sleeve. Her eyes glistened with tears, and her voice was soft, but it carried a world of accusations. Leo, don't blame Claire. It was my fault, I slipped. See? She even gave me this face cream. I'll deal with you later. Leo warned me, then turned back to Mia, his expression instantly softening. Don't be scared, Mia. I'll take you to the hospital. I stood at the top of the stairs, watching coldly as Leo swept Mia up in a princess carry, cooing at her as he rushed to the garage. Whenever Mia and I played together as kids, she would always get hurt. Claire, how could you be so careless? You scratched your sister's face. She's a girl, you know. Claire, how did your sister bump her head again? Claire, honestly, your sister has it hard enough. You need to be more generous. Mom, it's not Claire's fault. I was just being clumsy. Back then, I couldn't hear the manipulation in her words. I actually liked her more for defending me. Instead, I grew distant from my own mother, who never believed me. It wasn't until I was seen by everyone as the evil sister, the psycho who was jealous of Mia, that I started to wonder. I never understood why she would frame me when I was so good to her. Then, less than 2 weeks after my mother died, Mia's mother, Susan, moved into our house. Mia. My father, Alan, had named her that because he was in love with Susan. It turned out she was my father's illegitimate daughter. Worse, she was a year older than me. But after she was born, my father hid her and her mother away so he could marry my mother and climb the social ladder. Later, unable to resist Susan's sweet talk, he orchestrated my mother's miscarriage 10 years ago. Then, using forged adoption papers, he brought Mia into our home. The illegitimate daughter suddenly became a legitimate heiress of the Ning family. In my last life, after my mother died, Susan moved in with an 8-year-old boy in tow. Mia dropped her fragile act completely. She had just gotten engaged to Leo. When I confronted her, she kicked me in the stomach, knocking me to the ground. As if that wasn't enough, she squatted down, pressed her foot on my chest, and slapped my face. "You stole my father from the day you were born," she sneered. "And you have the nerve to ask me why? Fine. This time, I don't want her father. I just want my wealth and fortune. The wealth and fortune that should have belonged to my mother and me." Unfortunately, that social climbing bastard was clever. 10 years ago, when my mother was in a daze after her miscarriage, he convinced her the company was struggling and tricked her into signing over the shares my grandfather had left her. Then he pulled a switcheroo, bankrupting my grandfather's company and transferring all its assets to a new one he de-started. He also tricked my mother into taking out millions in loans. I have to plan this carefully, slowly. For now, a few appetizers will do. A little while later, I drove to the hospital. I stood outside the room and finally heard how Mia had been bad-mouthing me all this time. "Don't yell at Claire. I'm living in her house, so it's normal for her to resent me. If you say anything, she might retaliate even worse." Leo's voice was filled with rage. "She already pushed you down the stairs. If we let her get away with this, she might try to kill you next." Mia sobbed softly. "It must be something I did. I'm sure Claire will accept me one day." So that's how she played the victim. My face hardened. I grabbed a hot water carafe from the nurse's station and stormed into the room. "Claire!" Mia gasped. I flung the hot water in her face. "That's what you get for spreading lies." I snarled. She shrieked, her voice far more raw and real this time. My face. My face. What are you doing?" Leo, his eyes red with fury, grabbed my arm. I spun around and smashed the glass carafe over his head. Crash. The glass shattered everywhere. Leo stumbled back, stunned, with several bleeding cuts on his forehead. I went on the offensive. "Whose girlfriend are you, anyway? You believe her over me? If she says I pushed her, I pushed her? If she said you were a dog, would you get on all fours and bark to make her happy?" I turned to the still screaming Mia. "Quit your whining. It wasn't tea boiling water at worst. Your face will be red for a couple of days. You've got a cheap fate that can't handle our family's good fortune. And now you're trying to frame me for it." I yanked her out of the hospital bed, stomped hard on her sprained ankle, and sneered, "Since you accused me, I might as well make it true, right?" I put all my weight into it, grinding my heel into her ankle, even stomping on it a few times for good measure. She squealed like a stuck pig, all her previous frailty gone. She sounded more robust than any pig I'd ever heard. When my leg got tired, I sat down hard on her waist, slapping her face left and right. "See, little sister," I said coldly, "this is what it looks like when I don't like you. You're insane." Leo, forgetting his own injuries, scrambled to pull me off her. "If you don't stop, I'm calling the cops. They can lock you up for a few days to cool off." He was strong and managed to pull me away. I stared at him, my eyes burning. "So you believe her, not me? Is that it?" I ripped off the fake pendant ID had a jeweler make and dangled it out the window. "And you still want me to be your wife? In your dreams?" As I was about to let go, Leo didn't react, but Mia, cowering in the corner, suddenly shrieked, "Don't!" Mia scrambled towards me in a panic. Her face was a mess of red and purple, like a bruised plum, and her hair was a disaster. But she didn't care about her appearance. Her eyes were glued to my hand. "Don't. Claire, don't throw it." Below the window was a lake. If I threw it, they'd probably never find it again. But why would I throw it? This pendant was tied to her fate. It was her weakness. And Mia was Leo's weakness. I was going to use this weakness to destroy both of them. Finally, urged on by Mia's desperate pleas, Leo backed down. "Claire, I was wrong. I was being irrational. I should have believed you. That's it." I held up my arm. The red marks where he grabbed me clearly visible. "I'm not feeling the sincerity." Swallowing his anger, Leo slapped himself across the face a few times. I'm sorry. TSK. I frowned slightly and loosened my grip, letting 2 fingers slip. The pendant now dangled from just my ring and pinky finger, swaying precariously in the high-altitude wind. Claire. Mia's scream turned shrill, and she shot Leo a desperate, demanding look. With my left hand, I pointed to the fruit knife next to the fruit basket. Mia immediately grabbed an apple and the knife. She tried to ease the tension with a forced smile. Claire just wants you to peel an apple for her to apologize. I raised an eyebrow, took the knife from her, and tossed it at Leo's feet. Stab yourself twice, and I'll consider being your wife again. Don't push it. Leo glared at me. I let another finger go. Amidst Mia's shrieks and pleas, Leo shot me a hateful look, picked up the knife, and quickly stabbed himself twice in the abdomen. Blood began to pour out. He was drenched in a cold sweat. Are you satisfied now? He gritted out. I pulled my hand back from the window and put the pendant back on. Perfectly. I smiled. Don't be mad, Leo. See how nice I am to you? I specifically chose to do this in a hospital, so you can get treated right away. You'll be fine. Leo's eyes rolled back in his head, and he passed out. I couldn't tell if it was from anger or blood loss. Yes, that weak. Pathetic. I glanced at Mia, who was now looking at me with pure terror. Remind him to buy me a present to make up for this. Actually, just tell him to wire me 5.2 million. A small token of his affection. Okay. Oh, I said, looking at her coldly. And since you're so determined to tell everyone how awful I am, you can give back all the jewelry, bags, and allowance money I've ever given you. And so it went. For the next few days, anytime they said something I didn't like, I'd fly into a rage and threaten them with the pendant. I managed to milk nearly $10 million out of Leo, completely draining his savings. I even had him transfer the money in amounts that symbolized love and affection. Not only that, but I posted screenshots of all the transfers on my social media. He wouldn't dare ask for it back unless he wanted to be a complete laughingstock in our social circle. As for Mia, I emptied her pockets too, selling off all her luxury goods and getting almost 300,000. With that money, and my memories of the last life, I started investing in stocks I knew would skyrocket. In less than 2 months, my money had doubled. Just then, my parents returned from a business trip. Mia's spine seemed to straighten instantly, as if she finally had someone to back her up. I don't know what she told them, but that night, my mother sat me down and told me to return the money to Mia and apologize. It was just my mother and me in the study. Mom, Mia has been deceiving us. I told her everything, how Mia had framed me for years, how she lied behind my back. My mother was skeptical. How is that possible? Why would she do that? I pulled out a file I'd had a private investigator put together. A paternity test between Alan and Mia. Proof of when Mia was admitted to the orphanage, and the forged adoption papers. Evidence of financial transactions and intimate photos of Susan and Alan. And a photo of Susan and Alan's 5-year-old son. On top of that, during my parents' recent business trip, Susan and her son had tagged along. Alan had booked Susan a room right next to my mom's. He'd discuss business with Mom during the day, then sneak next door to be with his mistress. My mother's hands trembled as she looked at the evidence. She broke down in tears. I silently patted her on the back to comfort her. I had agonized over whether to tell her. Was it better to let her die rotting in a beautiful lie, or to face the truth and be reborn from the ashes? If it were me, I'd choose the latter. And I believed in my mother. I knew that after the pain, she would find the strength to stand up again. To my surprise, she hugged me tightly, her voice filled with heartache. My poor foolish daughter. What have you been through to have to investigate all this? I failed you, my dear. I didn't notice a thing, and I let you carry this burden all by yourself. Seeing the genuine care and love in her eyes, I couldn't stop my own tears from falling. I hadn't realized how much pain I was in. My numb heart slowly began to feel again. I took her hand. Mom, we'll face this together. When Alan saw that my mother hadn't punished me or come to Mia's defense, he decided to take matters into his own hands. He controlled the company and the family's finances, and had long forgotten the days when he was a spineless, boot-licking social climber. Now he was just a petty tyrant. Neil, he barked, slamming his chopsticks down on the dinner table. Is this how you act as an older sister? So cruel. Do you want our family to become the laughingstock of high society? What's wrong? I raised an eyebrow lazily. All I said was that Mia's been eating too much lately. She's got boils on her face and her belly is getting round like a toad's. I just told her to eat less. Is it a crime to care about her health now? What is that attitude? He roared, slamming his hand on the table. Don't think I don't know about the things you've done to your sister. Seeing the smug look on Mia's face, my expression turned icy. I threw down my own chopsticks and glared at her. You've been spreading lies again. Haven't you learned your lesson? Before anyone could react, I lunged across the table, grabbed a handful of Mia's hair, and started slamming her head against the tabletop. Dishes, food, and blood splattered everywhere. Mia was born prematurely, with a weak constitution and a chronic illness that required her to take a fistful of pills every day. She was no match for my strength. Soon, her face was cut open, a disgusting mixture of blood and pus oozing from her wounds. I let go in disgust, wiping my hand on her clothes. Little sister, instead of spreading rumors all day, maybe you should worry about your face. It's disgusting. The look of pure hatred and jealousy she shot me was immensely satisfying. You are completely out of control. Alan bellowed, raising his hand to slap me. I used Mia as a human shield. Furious, he ordered me to be sent abroad and confined there for 2 years. Even though this was part of my mother's and my plan, seeing him so quick to cast me out for Mia's sake only deepened my hatred for him. What I didn't expect was for Mia to finally drop the act with me completely. Have a nice trip, Claire, Mia sneered. The torment I put her through had made her look almost unhinged. She handed me a hotel key card. I wanted to give you a little going-away present. Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, the Grand Hotel, room 808. Well, look at you, finally showing your true colors. This two-faced bitch act suits you much better, I retorted. Too bad you're so ugly. It's hard to look at you. You. Mia gritted her teeth in fury. I suspected Mia was up to something. But I didn't expect it to be a live show of her and Leo in bed together. Did she really think I was still in love with Leo? That this would break my heart? I immediately pulled out my phone and handed 5 more phones to the 5 burly bodyguards standing behind me, telling them to start a live stream. Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, YouTube. I gained a bit of a following on several platforms for my piano skills and looks, with over 100,000 followers. Mia wanted to be famous? I was about to make her infamous. My 5 bodyguards threw open the door, their phone cameras broadcasting Leo and Mia's faces for all the world to see. Before they could even react, I launched my attack. Leo. Mia. You 2 disgusting cheaters, doing this behind my back. Mia shrieked, clearly not expecting a live stream, and tried to cover her face. Leo tried to get up and grab my phone but was pinned to the bed by my bodyguards. Mia yanked the blanket to cover herself, leaving Leo completely exposed. He immediately snatched it back. I saw their petty struggle and burst out laughing. So this is how fragile their great love was in the face of a single blanket. I filmed both of their faces, narrating as I went. The son of a mistress and the orphan my family adopted, hooking up behind my back. You 2 are made for each other. How could you do this to me? And you said you wanted to marry me? Well, the wedding is off. With that, I ripped the pendant off my neck and threw it across the room. Mia didn't react. She must have known the fate-swapping ritual had failed, which is why she stooped to this little drama with Leo, hoping to get a rise out of me. In my last life, she was much more cunning, keeping Leo on a string for years. She only agreed to marry him after he inherited his family's business. So she knew the pendant was useless. Guess she wasn't as stupid as I thought. I suddenly felt bored. But even though the live streams were quickly shut down by the platforms, screenshots and clips went viral. OMG, what a sleaze bag and a skank. That other woman is so ugly. Is this guy blind? I've followed this girl for a while. She's beautiful, a great pianist and rich. Can't believe she got cheated on with a hippo. That guy must be desperate. In no time, their identities and backgrounds were dug up and plastered all over the internet. They were dragged through the mud for weeks. The explosion in our social circle was even bigger. These were people of our own class. They all questioned Leo's taste and gained a new understanding of Mia's shamelessness. After this incident, Mia had effectively burned every bridge to marrying up. Her only options were to marry Leo or marry down into a family far beneath her own. My father was furious when he found out. He blew up my phone with angry messages. But by then, my mother and I were already abroad. I used to never care about business management or capital markets. All I wanted was to master my art, become Leo's wife, merge our family companies, and be the perfect trophy wife who brought him glory. But now I knew better. Money is power. Whoever controls the money calls the shots. Once my mother and I were abroad, I was like a fish in the sea, a bird in the sky. I was free. First, I enrolled in an MBA program. Then, using my mother's old school connections, I met several major players in the finance world and learned the hidden rules of the game. With the knowledge from my past life, I not only made a killing in the stock market but also used most of the profits to start a venture capital firm. I specialized in investing in small startups that were still in their funding stages, but that I knew would become massively valuable in the future. In just 2 years, I became known as the Midas of the investment world. My company's value skyrocketed by tens of thousands of %. On Wall Street, I was surrounded by admirers. They all called me Miss Lou with the utmost respect. But I knew what I really wanted was revenge on the social climbing leech, Alan Ning. In my last life, he didn't give me a penny. He even arranged for me to inherit my mother's millions in debt. He let Susan blacklist me, making it impossible for me to find a job or earn any money. I ended up a wreck, spiraling into depression and eventually taking my own life in a haze of despair. This time, he would pay for it with blood. I used a small portion of my money to invest in companies that were direct competitors to his. As a key decision maker in those companies, I systematically undercut him, stealing his clients with lower prices. Under this siege, Alan's company was soon on life support, teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. But then came the news. Mia and Leo were getting married. The Tang family had promised to inject a large sum of capital into Alan's company. The wedding was set for June 26th, the exact date of my ruined wedding with Leo in my past life. They didn't invite me, but I booked a flight back anyway. I had a few big gifts to deliver. My mother and I stood in front of the Ning family villa. A 7-year-old boy pointed a water gun at us, shouting, "Who are you? Get out of my house." A thin, plain-looking woman in a cheongsam glanced at us with seductive eyes. "Housekeeper, get them out of here." The housekeeper knew who we were and stood there, conflicted. I looked on coldly, then made a call to a security company. Soon, nearly 100 burly men in black suits stood at the villa's entrance, an intimidating dark mass. Throw them and everything they own out of my house. This villa was a gift from my grandfather to my mother. I wasn't about to let them defile it. Susan and her son screamed as the men unceremoniously tossed them out. Susan even called the police. But what could she do? She was a mistress, with no legal standing, and not the homeowner. When the police arrived and heard the story, they were exasperated with her. They yelled at her to vacate the property immediately. In the end, Mia had to come and pick them up. "I'm marrying Leo, and my father is divorcing your mother. The company and this villa will all be ours soon," Mia said, looking at me arrogantly. "You can't compete with me. I've won." Looking at her face and body, which were increasingly resembling a toad's, I had to admire Leo's ability to stomach it. And somehow the fate-swapping curse was still active. "Whatever," I said with a small smile. "The sooner that Leech divorces my mom, the better. She has plenty of suitors waiting for her back in the States." Mia wasn't satisfied with my reaction. "2 years ago, you framed me, but Leo still knelt before his father for 3 days and nights, insisting on marrying me. Now everyone knows the truth about how you bullied me, and Leo is about to take over his company. Claire Ning, I won. I took back everything that was mine." "The daughter of a mistress, talking so big," I said, and then I threw a bucket of water on them, drenching all 3. "Now get lost." That night, my mother suddenly developed a high fever and fell unconscious. In my last life, she died of stomach cancer. Terrified of a repeat, I had been extra careful with her diet and emotional well-being this time, forcing her to get regular checkups. Her full body scan before we came back was perfectly fine. How could she suddenly get so sick? I immediately called the family doctor. He said her condition was unusual, and that she needed to be taken to a major hospital for conservative treatment. I held my mother's hand, feeling completely lost. Knock, knock. Amidst the chaos, someone knocked on the door. I opened it to see the young man from the temple 2 years ago. This time he was in a sharp suit. He no longer looked like a lay disciple, but more like a high-powered executive. What are you doing here? I had a feeling you'd need me. I was afraid you wouldn't be able to find me, so I came, he said, his voice as gentle as it was 2 years ago. He radiated a calm energy. Just being near him, I felt my own anxiety begin to settle. He sat down and took my mother's pulse. It's a dark poison, a curse. It was just administered today. Did you two cross someone? Susan. A light went on in my head and suddenly, everything made sense. How Susan, a plain-looking woman, had managed to keep her claws in that leech of a man, how she was the one behind the fate-swapping charm, and the ritual, the suspicious nature of my mother's miscarriage, and her strange death in my past life, my own foggy, listless death. Even how Mia in my past life had said my mother's and my good fortune could turn the company's luck around, which was why they kept us alive for so long. Susan wasn't just a pretty face, she was a practitioner of dark arts. Ding. Just then, I received a text from Alan. It was a petition for divorce, citing 2 years of separation. In the settlement agreement, he took all his company shares and left my mother with millions in debt. He added a note. Sign it. It's better for everyone. Otherwise, you'll be up against our company's formidable legal team. I clenched my fist. It seemed the gifts I had prepared for them were far from enough. The young man inserted a dense pattern of needles into acupuncture points on my mother's head, drawing out the poison. My mother slowly regained consciousness, and a huge weight lifted from my shoulders. Just make sure she rests and eats well. She'll be fine, he said, handing me 2 protective talismans. Wear these. They will ward off misfortune. You've helped me again. Why are you doing this? Perhaps we're fated to meet, he said, his gaze warm. He extended his hand. My name is Julian Tang. What's yours? I shook his hand. I'm taking my mother's name now. You can call me Claire Lou. I took a bank card from the safe and offered it to him. He smiled. No need. If you really want to thank me, you can buy me dinner. I looked at him. His eyes were clear, his face handsome, his smile gentle. He was like warm water, like a cool breeze cleansing the soul. My heart began to pound, but I held it in check. Dinner then. Do lay disciples have any dietary restrictions? My 6 roots of sensation are no longer pure. I left the monastery 2 years ago. I have no restrictions. 2 years ago? That was right when I first met him. Thump, thump, thump. The little deer in my chest was running wild. If I get into trouble again, will you still help me? Of course. I added Julian on WhatsApp, and we agreed to have dinner sometime, but I didn't expect to see him again so soon. At Mia and Leo's wedding, I saw him again. Leo's father was greeting him with deep respect, calling him uncle. The fountain of youth? I teased. It's just a matter of seniority, Julian said, looking a bit sheepish. I'm from the main branch of the Tang family in New York. They're a minor branch. I don't know them well. I'm here to evaluate their company and decide whether to invest. It's clear they don't meet my standards. The heir's intelligence and vision are severely lacking. The New York Tangs were a famously wealthy and powerful shadow family. You can tell me all this, but it's all Greek to me, I teased, but I was secretly thrilled that he was being so open with me. At this wedding, no one came near me except Julian. I only found out from something Mia said that while I was busy building my empire abroad, she had been playing the victim, using old photos of me bullying her to gain sympathy. It had worked so well that no one even called her a homewrecker anymore. They all just congratulated her. Mia, holding the groom's arm, walked over to me, deliberately flashing the massive pigeon's egg-sized diamond on her finger. Claire, I'm so glad you could be here to witness my happiness. I stared at the cubic zirconia and had to hold back a laugh. Oh, I am. I'm here to witness your fake diamond, your cheap wedding, and the moment you fall into hell. Mia looked like she wanted to swallow me whole. Claire, don't be like that. I know I wronged you, Leo said, his eyes a mixture of nostalgia and regret. But we haven't seen each other in 2 years. I hope we can let bygones be bygones and still be friends. Friends with my foot. I rolled my eyes. Julian chose that moment to take my hand. If you were friends, he said coolly, the family seniority would be a bit awkward. Great uncle? Leo's eyes widened, his soul practically leaving his body. Ignoring Leo's meltdown, Julian simply nodded. My own heart was racing, and my hand trembled in his. The wedding music began, and the couple exchanged rings on stage. Leo's father took the opportunity to announce a deep strategic partnership with Alan Ning's company, along with $100 million investment. The crowd erupted in applause. Mia looked at Leo with gratitude as the officiant prompted them to kiss. Amidst this happy scene, the background screen began to play. Social climber Alan Ning's rise to power, siphoning his wife's family assets and deceiving her into millions of debt. Alan Ning deliberately caused wife's miscarriage, brought illegitimate daughter into the home. Alan Ning suffers from infertility. Mistress's son belongs to another man. Cuckolded man still plans to marry mistress. Alan Ning's tax evasion, illegal imprisonment, and malicious competition. Gasps and murmurs spread through the crowd as the scandalous headlines rolled. Mia's kiss was cut short. She stared blankly at the screen. The screen that was supposed to be showing their wedding photos was now broadcasting one shocking expose after another. Alan went ballistic, screaming for someone to turn off the screen, but it was no use. He rushed the stage, trying to tear down the screen, but was intercepted by security and dragged away. The wedding was in shambles, but the screen kept rolling. A full list of the Tang Corporation's crimes. High-definition photos of Leo Tang's affairs with various women. Mia Ning's fate swapped with a toad. Mia finally snapped back to reality, just as a series of large, explicit photos of Leo with various models appeared on screen. She shrieked and lunged at him. You bastard! You promised you would love me forever. Have you looked at yourself lately? You look like a toad. I can't even stand to touch you. The fact that I married you should be enough. Watching the couple who seemed so devoted in my last life expose their ugliest sides, I sneered. So this was their great love. How fragile. Just then the police stormed in. They had received my anonymous tip, along with all the evidence I had collected, and had arrest warrants. They cuffed Alan, Susan, and Leo's family on the spot. Seeing this, a smile touched my lips. The weight on my heart finally lifted, replaced by a long-lost sense of peace. This was the fruit of 2 years of hard work and a lot of money. It just goes to show, people who do dirty deeds are dirty all over. When you see one cockroach, you know there's a whole infestation. The more I dug, the more crimes I found. The evidence I submitted was more than enough to put them away for life. You're the one who swapped our fates. Mia screamed, rushing at me, her eyes filled with murder. Julian stepped in front of me. You're the one who started this, I said with a cold smile. How does it feel to share a life with a toad? You know, you're starting to look more and more like one. Mia was a person of interest in the case, and the police quickly cuffed her, restraining her. You ruined us. Susan, on the other hand, was completely unhinged. She broke free from the police, pulled a talisman and a lock of hair from her pocket, and began chanting. Suddenly, I felt a searing heat on my neck. I looked down and saw the protective talisman Julian had given me burst into flames. When I looked up, Susan seemed to have suffered a backlash from her own spell. She coughed up a huge mouthful of blood and collapsed. She was taken away in an ambulance. I heard later that she never woke up, remaining in a vegetative state. Julian said it was karma for all the evil she had done. I visited her once. With no money and no one to care for her, she was left lying in her own filth. Worse than a pig in a sty. Alan went to prison, and his company went bankrupt. Even after he gets out, old and gray, he'll still be facing a mountain of debt. Leo and his father were also convicted of numerous crimes and sentenced to long prison terms. Prison is no picnic, but I made sure to hire a few people on the inside to give them some special attention. As for Mia, since she hadn't committed any major crimes, she and her little brother disappeared without a trace. One day, I was on my way to work when I saw the first snow of the season falling outside the car window. I excitedly pulled Julian out of the car to walk on the street. At the wedding, when you told Leo the seniority was wrong, you were so bold. How did you know I liked you back? What if I had rejected you on the spot? Wouldn't you have been embarrassed? It was a question I'd asked him countless times since we got together. And every time, he would gently squeeze my hand and say, without a hint of annoyance, because I had already chosen you. My devotion was unwavering. I wasn't afraid. I loved how decisively he had chosen me. I squeezed his hand back. Was it love at first sight? It was love at first sight, for 3 lifetimes. I beamed, feeling it was a little cheesy but happy nonetheless. Just then, I saw a heavy-set woman dragging a bratty kid behind her. Despite the cold, she was only wearing a thin jacket, bent over coughing as she collected trash from a can. She looked miserable. I deliberately handed her my empty water bottle, and my eyes met hers. Her face was covered in bumpy, wart-like growths. Though weathered by hardship, her face was familiar. A chill ran down my spine as I realized it was Mia. Mia recognized me too. She grabbed the kid and ran. I watched her flee, feeling nothing at all. I had severed all ties with my past. Those people and those events no longer had the power to affect me. Do you still have that toad? Julian squeezed my hand. Of course. You could say it's our love token. Besides, their fates are linked now. It's not every day you find a toad that can live for so long. Extra Julian. Love at first sight, for 3 lifetimes. I wasn't just saying that. In my past life, I wanted to join the monastery, but the abbot said my earthly ties were not yet severed. Only after I had resolved them could he tonsure me. I didn't believe him. Nothing in this world held any appeal for me. I had grown up surrounded by scheming and backstabbing. Fame and fortune were meaningless to me. Love and marriage were just another form of transaction. I thought I had seen through it all. Until I saw her. I didn't know her name, but I saw her kneeling before the Buddha, kowtowing with every step, 999 times. Her knees were swollen, her forehead was bleeding. She did this every morning for a month, until she looked like she was fading away. I didn't know what she was praying for, but I couldn't bear to watch it. I told myself that tomorrow I would go and talk to her. But she never came back. The abbot knew her. With a soft chant, he told me she had been praying for her mother to recover from stomach cancer. But her mother had passed away, so she had no reason to return. When I learned this, I felt an emptiness inside me. During my morning and evening chants, her image would always appear in my mind. I thought that with time, the memory would fade, but instead, my longing for her only grew stronger. Just as I was about to use my family's influence to find her, she finally came back. She was so much thinner than before. She knelt before the bodhisattva and began to kowtow. Patron, I said, approaching her. For the first time, I saw her face clearly. She wasn't beautiful, but the brokenness in her eyes tore at my heart. If something is troubling you, you can talk to me, I said gently. But she just looked at me with a vacant expression, ignored me, and continued to pray. I felt something was wrong. I couldn't let her slip away again, so I had someone investigate. The next day, she jumped off a cliff. Her file was delivered to my desk. How could such a kind person be bullied into this? I read about her life, and tears fell from my eyes. For the first time, I questioned the Buddhist principles of tolerance and forgiveness, of karma and retribution. I couldn't wait for heaven to punish them. I went after every single person who had hurt her, and I made their lives a living hell. But she could never come back. The abbot told me my great tribulation had passed, and asked if I was ready to take my vows. The thing I had once desired so deeply now held no appeal. I shook my head. If I became a monk, would I no longer be allowed to love her? I traced my fingers over her tombstone, and my vision blurred with tears. When I opened my eyes again, I saw her, vibrant and full of life, walking into the abbot's reception room. I was reborn. I could help her. I would not hesitate and waste this chance again. Ugh. My laugh caught her attention, and she turned her head. She was so beautiful now. I was momentarily stunned. But I wasn't in a hurry. We would have 3 lifetimes together. We met in our last life, we would fall in love in this one, and we would be together in the next. The end.